Hello YouTube, it's Trevor here, back again. It's time to choose another film that I own that I still haven't got around to watching. Right, so we know the other week I watched A Fistful of Dollars and really enjoyed it. So the next one in line is A Few Dollars More. So, For a Few Dollars More, Sergio Leone and Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood had proven so successful in his first foray into European westerns with A Fistful of Dollars that a follow-up sequel was inevitable. Superbly scripted by Luciano Vincenzoni, featuring an unforgettable alliance between ruthless gunslingers Clint Eastwood and Lee Van Cleef. For a Few Dollars More tells the tale of a ruthless quest to track down the notorious bandit El Indio. The film is also noted for its array of weaponry. Sergio Leone's direction is both violent and operatic, and Ennio Morricone's atmospheric score keeps the tension taut as the action moves from jailbreaks and hold-ups to spectacular gun battles. Now I'm going to watch A Few Dollars More. I'll tell you afterwards what I think. Okay, so I've just watched For a Few Dollars More. Was it as good as the first one? Yeah, I think so. It was a little bit longer. It did drag a little bit more than the other one, but hardly at all. From the word go, it was just really compelling viewing. The opening shot is like a vista, and you just see a lone horseman riding along, and then you hear a gunshot and you see him fall off his horse, and then the credits roll over the over that shot, basically, of the empty desert, and then the theme tune starts, Ennio Morricone's theme tune, and it's a different one to the first film, but again it's recognisable. These films are so sort of ingrained in our culture that without knowing them, but certainly for my generation, we recognise things from it. So in this one you've got Lee Van Cleef as Colonel Mortimer. He's a bounty hunter, Clint Eastwood's a bounty hunter, and they're going after the same guy, the villain Indio. And at the beginning there's a little bit of rivalry and they're summing each other up, sussing each other out. But then they start to work together, and it's a great team. I knew who Lee Van Cleef was, and I knew he was in these films, but I always had it in my head that he was the villain. So it's quite interesting to see them form this partnership. Van Cleef is sort of steely cold. Clint is as cool as ever, making smoking look really cool. It's no wonder that our parents' generation was so full of smokers when you had films like this. My early experience of Lee Van Cleef actually comes from the comic strip Presents. There was an episode called A Fistful of Traveller's Checks, and Peter Richardson plays the Lee Van Cleef character, and surprisingly now watching this you realise how good an impersonation Peter Richardson done. You can also see a lot of influence from this film for a lot of other films. El Mariachi, there's bits in it that reminded me of that. Mainly Lee Van Cleef's gun case, which he folds out, and there's all the different rifles in there. But there's other scenes in there, like the jailbreak scene, but so many scenes were sort of familiar. The setup of this film was just fantastic. It was just really compelling viewing. It's all really atmospheric, it's silent, it's moody, it's drawn out. The score is just fantastic throughout. It really creates quite a strange sort of atmosphere. The shots again are really interesting, low angles, lots of close-ups again like there was in the first one, but just really well made, really well put together. And despite the film being quite an old film, the editing and that, it seems really fast-paced. Every cut and splice is really well placed and fluid. The whole film just moulds together. So there's like a really great build-up of tension as the film goes on, and each scene, a lot goes on without a lot of dialogue, and it creates a lot of tension. Notably the scene where Lee Van Cleef lights a match off the back of one of Indio's gang. There's sort of a standoff, and that's a scene where there's a lot of cutting from one character to the other, and then there's lots of splices in the editing, but really effective. You introduce the characters, then you introduce the villain, Indio, and he's ruthless from the start. You know what you're up against when he finds the guy who got him put into prison in the first place. Then he takes the wife and child off and has them killed. So he's not someone to be messed with. Really quite shocking violence for the time. The blood was a bit more toned down than the last film, was a bit sort of painted blood. But Indio has this watch, and when he duels people, he opens the watch and it like plays this tune. I've definitely heard that tune before. I'm sure there was like a rave tune about it. But yeah, it plays this little tune, and by the time the music runs down, that's when they duel. Again, there's plenty of comedy in it throughout. Some really funny scenes. One is where Clint Eastwood turns up to stay in an inn, and the innkeeper's like stood behind his wife, and she's sort of brooding all over him, like big chesty woman, and she's like, "Oh, I like a bit of Clint." And he walks off, and as she walks off, she goes, "Oh, he's so tall." And then the husband sort of shakes his head and then walks around from the counter and then steps down, and then you realise he's actually stood up on something. And just lots of comedy moments. So Clint and Mortimer are working together. Indio's got this plot to rob the El Paso bank, and they decide that Clint Eastwood is better off to infiltrate the gang and start working from the inside. And so that's how they go about it. But yeah, it's a good film. I really have enjoyed this trilogy so far. So there's The Good, the Bad, the Ugly left, which a lot of people I know really revere that film. So I'm quite looking forward to seeing that